Hello, my name is Jim House. I'm a professor in the Department of Food and Human Nutritional Sciences at the University of Manitoba. Today I'm speaking to you from the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. On behalf of the entire organizing committee, I welcome you to the second annual Manitoba Sustainable Protein Research Symposium. This symposium is a product of the Manitoba Protein Research Strategy. This strategy, which was initiated in the fall of 2020, was designed to gather information and disseminate knowledge as it pertains to the research ecosystem and infrastructure that exists within the province of Manitoba pertaining to sustainable protein sources. These include sustainable proteins that arrive from both plant and animal sources, as well as alternative sources. The Manitoba Sustainable Protein Research Strategy itself was derived as part of an overarching initiative by the province of Manitoba, which was called the Manitoba Protein Advantage Strategy. And the entire strategy can be seen in the following diagram. This is a very complex diagram, but it's easily distilled if we think about it in terms of pillars. As part of the overall Protein Advantage Strategy, which involved a number of stakeholders over a number of different meetings. These included stakeholders from government, academia, industry, as well as key partners from across the global protein supply chain. The pillars that were established include pillars that pertain to discrete areas of the strategy that will be enacted upon. And the one that is particularly pertinent to the work that we're doing today and to the materials that we're highlighting relates to the information and knowledge pillar. This is probably best seen in the following slide. Within this slide, you can see that there are 10 pillars of the Manitoba Protein Advantage. This is now termed Project Aspire, or Accelerating Sustainable Protein Impact and Results. And Project Aspire has these 10 hubs, and the Information and Knowledge Hub is one of the 10 hubs that we are particularly interested in. The Manitoba Research Strategy, which is a critical component of this Information and Knowledge Hub, had itself a research steering committee, which included the members, as you can see here on this slide, including University of Manitoba, Red River College Polytechnic, Manitoba Industry-Academia Partnership, the Winning Combination, and the Manitoba Protein Consortium. So this research strategy committee was key to outlining the key goals for the research strategy and guiding the direction for the strategy over the past 2 years. And there were some critical elements that I'll focus on in the following slides. In short, the Manitoba Protein Research Strategy, as I mentioned, was designed to gather information and disseminate knowledge as it relates to sustainable protein research resources within the province of Manitoba. This was accomplished through a series of activities that started in late 2020 and early 2021, including qualitative and quantitative surveys to gather information related to research expertise and infrastructure that exists within the province, understanding of research gaps, development of a research database, and also the identification of priority research areas. These were all critical components of the Manitoba Protein Research Strategy, and I'll highlight some of the end products of these particular components through the next couple of slides. Before I do that, I wanted to ensure that we were singing from the same song sheet, as it were, as it relates to the dimensions of sustainable protein. For our work, we use the following framework, which was developed from the Sustainable Healthy Diets Guiding Principles of the FAO and the United Nations, that essentially looks at 4 dimensions of sustainability. You have health, environment, sociocultural, and economic dimensions. The health dimensions look at questions such as, what is the balance between plant and animal protein sources? When we look at the environmental dimensions, we look at things as, how do we maintain greenhouse gas emissions? how do we preserve biodiversity? From an economic perspective, we're looking at ensuring that we have secure and sustainable transportation and supply chains, for example. And then finally, from a sociocultural standpoint, we are looking to ensure that the foods that we are developing and the foods that we are positioning are culturally appropriate, for example, that they're built on and respect cultural practices. It is critical that we maintain all of these four dimensions when we consider the definition of sustainable protein. And this again formed the framework of all of our qualitative and quantitative surveys and work that was conducted within the research strategy. This particular slide provides sort of an overview of the qualitative and quantitative results that were generated from some of our initial surveys, looking at existing expertise and also critical areas that we need to consider when we're thinking about sustainable protein within the province. And in depicting these areas, we've chosen a sort of classic food systems perspective, where we're looking at taking it all the way from primary production all the way through to end usage, but recognizing that we need to incorporate aspects of the circular economy, because we need to ensure that we are considering all of these elements when we're thinking about sustainable protein. But for example, under primary production and harvesting, we have capacity and expertise in advanced genomics as it relates to both plant and animals. There's work being done in breeding improvements, looking at complete plant utilization, etc. And the same components go through for all of the other areas, including processing, packaging, marketing, and economics and end usage, as well as transportation and distribution. There are cross-cutting themes that we overlaid in terms of the entire system, which includes the increasing use of digital agriculture and AI to assist with the establishment of sustainable protein practices. And paramount within all of this, as it relates to in particular to the circular economy, as we consider the water and waste management strategies that are critical within these production systems. One of the key outcomes from the Manitoba Protein Research Strategy was the development of a research database. And this was done in conjunction with Emily, or the Enterprise Machine Learning Initiative. So the Manitoba Protein Research Strategy, we, along with Emily, have created a sustainable protein database using Emily's existing asset map. We are currently undergoing a major renovation of this sustainable protein research network and using a new interface. So we are fully expecting to launch this by August of 2022. But the data that's included within the sustainable protein database was collected from the research community and the research ecosystem within the province. And so we have a great starting point, but the actual network itself will also be allowed to be self-populated with new information, and it will continue to grow. And we fully expect this to expand to a pan-Canadian exercise, as we've received funding from Protein Industries Canada to allow us to add more applications and more processes within this particular research network. Another key outcome of the Manitoba Protein Research Strategy was the development of a research gap analysis, which was facilitated by, again, the qualitative and quantitative surveys, as well as a major gap analysis workshop. And using data from the surveys, as well as the discussion that ensued within the workshop, we identified 4 primary areas that we felt that we could place a total of 46 priority research projects into. These related to climate resiliency, the development and processing component, the digital agriculture component, and finally, the component that was focused on wastewater and co-product utilization. So again, we identified 46 priority research areas. These can be seen within this particular slide, which highlights all of the research priorities, and the full text is available on the Government of Manitoba's website. It's there currently. And so you can, instead of copying this down, you can view the full text on the Government of Manitoba's website. But as you can see, that we have identified, we have targeted particular areas within those 4 particular priority areas. There are cross-cutting areas as well, but I think this is our attempt to identify and capture those priority research areas within those domains. The key outcomes to date for the Manitoba Protein Research Strategy included the definition of key research gaps and priorities for Manitoba, the establishment of a sustainable protein research network, which is an online asset map for research infrastructure and expertise. We established the Manitoba Sustainable Protein Research Symposium, and this is a transdisciplinary event to highlight research capacity in the province. And we also established a nexus for the knowledge translation related to protein innovation. So creating opportunities for networking, creating opportunities for sharing of knowledge. This is something that we are really looking forward to with this, the second annual Manitoba Sustainable Protein Research Symposium. So with this, I'd like to identify what we hope to achieve with this symposium. So we want you to use this opportunity to share knowledge as it relates to different dimensions of sustainable protein research. Use the opportunities. We had an excellent networking event last evening, but we want you to use the opportunities that are afforded during the symposium and during the time that's provided to establish more connections, to follow up on the connections that you've developed, and look for opportunities to change those connections into collaborations, those collaborations into projects, and those projects into innovation, so that we can excel and continue to advance sustainable protein within the province. A critical element of the research strategy of this research symposium is also to highlight the excellent research that is being conducted in the province and beyond in relation to sustainable protein. Towards this end, we have 4 excellent plenary speakers who are going to be presenting over the next 2 days on topics related to those 4 dimensions of sustainability. But we also have tremendous presentations that are being provided primarily by our trainees in a format called Pekka Kucha presentations, where our trainees will provide an overview of the work that they're doing as it relates to sustainable protein and really putting it into context. These presentations will also include overviews and presentations of research from our partners and research enterprises, including other in areas related to academia, industry partners, and our government partners. As I mentioned, this will be an excellent networking opportunity for our trainees, our industry and academia and government partners. So again, use the opportunity, use the networking features that are present on the Feed Loop website to allow you to take advantage of these networking opportunities. All in all, what we're hoping to do is continue to build the sustainable protein ecosystem in Manitoba. So with that, I invite you to sit back and relax and enjoy the talks that we have planned for you today. The 2022 Manitoba Protein Research Symposium would not be possible without the efforts of the entire organizing committee, and I want to take this opportunity to thank them. And I also want to take the opportunity to thank our sponsors who are listed on the main splash page of the Feed Loop site, and invite you to reflect on those who have provided resources to help us put on this event. Before we begin, I'd like to just indicate that for today, we will be taking questions via the chat feature. And so if you have a particular question, please type those into the chat feature, and then I will be using those to ask questions during the live Q&A session that will follow the 2 plenary talks that we have planned. And now on to the plenary talks and an introduction of our speakers. Our first speaker will be Dr. Chris Marinangeli, who is currently the Director of the Regulatory Center of Excellence for Protein Industries Canada. Chris has a PhD in food nutrition science from the University of Manitoba and is a registered dietitian. He is a scientist and food industry professional with over 10 years of experience across consumer packaged goods and the Canadian agricultural sector. I invite you to reflect on his bio on the main splash page and to see all of the tremendous accomplishments that Chris has made. Our second speaker is Dr. Christina Rosell. Dr. Rosell is the new head of the Department of Food and Human Nutritional Sciences at the University of Manitoba. Previously, she was a full research professor and director in the Institute of Agrochemistry and Food Technology and an associate professor of the University of Valencia in Spain. During her career, she has been an invited professor at the North Carolina University, La Trobe University in Australia, and the University of California, Davis. Again, I invite you to look at Dr. Rizal's complete bio on the main page. These talks will begin in just one moment. And again, we ask you to use the chat feature to enter in any questions that you might have. For now, I just ask you to sit back, and our main talks will just begin in one moment.